So I want to read you this. The purpose of co-production Salon is to encourage investments in entertainment content for and from the MENA region and matchmaking partnerships. Can you tell me a bit about the entertainment scene in the MENA region? You've been in the game for a few years now. How did it evolve, and what exactly does your company offer?
Well, thank you for giving me the chance to boast about my company and what we do. Um, it was getting a bit emotional with the personal side, but on the more professional side, so I'm a people person. You probably can tell. I love people. I love building relationships, and I love also to um, to make sure that everybody's happy around me. Having that happy culture or happy vibe. What the co-production salon does is we, over the past few years, 7 or 8 years that I've been in the media industry, obviously having the investment background, the banking background, the formal education in it's something totally not totally unrelated, but in a different space. I figured there was a huge gap in the way the Arabic or the Arabic media industry, the MENA region's media industry is happening, is carried out compared to the rest of the world. So I'll give you a very simple exercise. You go to ChatGPT or Google search or whatever it is, and you type in what is the size of exports of Korean dramas? You switch on Netflix, you go to Squid Games, whatever, and it will come up with a number. I think it was $500 million, something like that, like annual figure. You go and type in what is the size of Bollywood exports to the world, Bollywood movies, and it'll give you a figure. And then it will show you where the sources are coming from, data, analytics, some research. Similarly, the size of exports of telenovelas, for example. And, there's always research that's being offered. Now, type the same thing for Arabic content. I did that exercise last year, or I think the year before, last year, and less than a year ago on ChatGPT. And guess what I got back? I got back an article written by me. I'm not even a producer. I'm not, I'm somebody that joined the media industry literally 7, 8 years ago. So, and a few other sources as well. But like, it just shows us that there's so much happening in this industry. This is our culture. This is the Arabic culture being exported to the world, and there's no one measuring it. The Ramadan season, which is the high season in the Middle East, is worth $500 million. And nobody's looking at it. Nobody's, measuring it. Nobody's doing any research on it. Um, so I thought, well, I'm in touch with the biggest producers in the Arab world and the platforms, and they're really the drivers. These guys are gurus at what they do. They've been doing this for decades. They're very successful at what they do. They're showing our culture to different countries. People in Egypt are distributing dramas that show Egyptian culture. In Saudi Arabia now there is a big round of investments going, not just in cinema, but also, Saudi alone uh, has produced over how much, what was the figure? It was 200 dramas since the 60s. Nobody knows about this because nobody's measuring it. They say Saudi Arabia is a new industry. No, they've been producing since the 60s. 67 was the first series that went on Riyadh on a national TV channel. One of our producers is from Saudi Arabia, and he's been doing these dramas forever. So there is an industry, there is lots of opportunities in industry. There are lots of investments going into this and it's not just recent, like just now recently, people are starting to realize um, the trend because of what's happening in Saudi and the cinema and whatnot. But we do have an industry that's measurable. We do have an industry where you can make a lot of money by investing in TV and film. And all that's missing is just the data. It's just missing somebody someone to showcase what the ROI is like, what the distribution patterns are like. Where are these Arabic series distributed? Where are they shown in which countries in MENA? Is it in Saudi? Is it in Morocco? Beyond MENA, where are people watching them? In Venezuela, in Russia, in China. So I've started following this in my previous role in 2017. I've started following the patterns of media investments, so investments in video assets. When I say video assets, the most expensive video assets to produce are the dramas, which is equivalent to telenovelas in the Arab world. Um, and so we have a database of almost all dramas ever produced since 2017 for the Ramadan season, which is like the highest value up until now, and the distribution patterns. So where did they appear? We have data sources from firsthand from the producers that produce them. Uh, uh, and yeah, and from there we're able to advise newcomers to the media industry of where to invest, what the ROI looks like, what's the distribution plan going to look like, who's buying these assets, are they too expensive to produce for the ROI that we're measuring, how many years before you're able to see any money come in. Usually it's around a year, 18 months to 2 years to break even and then to make a bit of good profit. So that's really what we're doing at the co-production salon. We're offering three services. Um, uh, and it's very B2B, like I said. We're hosting the biggest and best producers in the MENA region, including foreign ones that are doing business in the MENA region. The biggest and best platforms. There are 60 platforms currently, more than 60 now, operating in our part of the world. 40 of them, or a little bit more than 40, are Arabic platforms. So Shahid, it's like the equivalent of Netflix in this part of the world. Shahid being OSN, and then a lot of other niche, Yango Play, for example, and other niche ones in different countries. And then we also have the international ones that operate here, like Netflix and the other ones as well that operate in this part of the world. Um, but yeah, and then we host also some of the TV networks that invest. So it's all around investing and partnerships. It's really about partnering up, finding the right partners to invest in content.
Yeah, but I need to ask, like,
Entertainment.
why do you think it took so long for someone to put a spotlight on this? Do you think it's because we have kind of a fractured region? I mean, Saudis know about the Saudi shows, Egyptians know. I mean, Egyptians are the exception. Everyone knows about them. But let's say, for example, in Lebanon and Syria and all these different countries, they have their own shows and they're all dispersed. And unlike the US, for example, where you have Hollywood that is a really centralized place for the movies and then they spread it out. So what do you think was the main challenge and why did it take so long for someone to actually tackle this problem?
I think it's two reasons. You've mentioned one of them. We are a very fragmented industry because of 22 different languages, 22 different countries. The main theme between these countries is Arabic, right? But then even Arabic, there is many different dialects, more than 22 dialects of Arabic. Um, Now, to answer your question, looking in from abroad, so from an investor's point of view, they look into the MENA as one region, when in fact it's five sub-regions. So this is my kind of I write a lot of research, I make a lot of research, and I write a lot of articles about this, but it's not 22 different regions. It's actually five. When it comes to trading in content, when it comes to investing in content, it's five. So it's pretty simple, it's pretty straightforward. The reason it's fragmented is because the international community doesn't understand that. It's too complicated. So you have a situation where somebody comes in and they start, they even they're not even starting to scratch the surface, but there is no information. It's literally the lack of information. There is no information, and there is no information because they're not talking to each other. So, like you said, Saudi is it's a new kind of industry where the Saudi video assets, the entertainment video assets, are not. There is no information as to where they're traveling. Um, So it could very well be that Egyptians are watching Saudi shows. It's just that the Saudis don't know that. you know. Or it could very well be that Moroccans are watching an Iraqi show, but Iraqis don't know that. So I think the lack of information, the lack of data is at the heart of it. And why and if you don't have data, it's very difficult to make sense of the industry. So the first question I'm asked by international investors to is who want to invest in this region and who want to expand into this region is, who are the big players? Who are
Mm,
they? And okay, they look, it's only three big players. Well, it's, and even then, you look at the graph, the pie chart, and it's literally the biggest part of the pie chart of the big, of who's servicing the media industry is what it's labeled as others. So you've got NBC, you've got, two or other streamers, depending on which country you're looking at, and then others. That others makes up the majority of the pie chart. So that's where really internationals or like researchers group everything that they don't understand. And that's where I'm
mm,
digging. And that's where the gold is.
mm.
So to answer your question, it's really the lack of information.
Heba, I think what you're doing is fascinating. I think this is one of the fastest growing region in terms of population. I think they have a lot to offer. And I myself, as someone who's originally Lebanese, I had no idea Saudis had TV series. So, so it's very enlightening to hear
200
that.
something of them. Yeah.
So, unfortunately, we ran out of time. This was super interesting. Thank you so much for doing this, Heba.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Antoine, and keep shining. Thank you for this lovely podcast and for the opportunity to talk about this.